Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. Now for this one I want to return to one of the breweries that is very close to my hometown and one that I've been growing very fond of recently. This is the Williams Brothers Joker IPA. Now I've already done video reviews of the Freya Heather Ale, the first ale that was brewed by this particular brewing group, and I've also done the Seven Giraffe, so I'll put the links for those videos in the description for you, and I can promise you there will be more Williams Brothers beer reviews if you're particularly interested in this brewery. I have the Birds and the Bees and the Caesar Augustus bottles to review, and you'll see these pop up over the next little while, and I can promise you after that there will be more. I really like this brewery, and it's also a very local brewery. I like to support my local breweries in that manner. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a brief history of the Williams Brothers Brewing Company. I promised in my last video that I would talk a little bit more about the brewing history of Alloa, but my uni work has been a little bit crazy just now, so I'll need to delay that particular research until one of the later videos. But if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free just to fast forward towards the last few minutes of the video and you will catch that. Now this company started in the family owned Glenbrew home brewing shop in Glasgow, and their first ale, as I mentioned, was the Freya Heather Ale, and this was a 17th century Gaelic recipe for this particular type of ale, named after the Celtic mythological hero of the same name. And this incidentally is the oldest continually brewed type of ale in the world. I believe it's about 4,000 years old, so very old. I always find the really ancient history of Scotland very interesting, I have to say. But in 1988 a woman of Gaelic descent came into their brew shop with a translation of this particular ancient recipe, and she basically wanted to create a batch of this to share with her family, and she agreed that she would share the recipe with Bruce Williams in exchange for brewing the batch for her. And this particular first batch that they brewed was only 5 barrels large, and it was brewed in Tainoak railway station over in Argyll and Bute on the west coast of Scotland, a very beautiful part of the country incidentally. But the following year the demand for this particular beer had increased massively, and at this particular point Scott Williams joined his brother Bruce, and they began to develop other historic recipes such as the Groatset, the Gooseberry Wheat Ale, the Kelpie, which is a seaweed ale, Ebaloom, which is an elderberry black ale, and Alaba, the Gaelic word for Scotland, which is a Scots pine ale. And these 4 recipes were initially brewed at the Craigmill Brewery in Straven or Strathaven, my old flatmates from there. But this was brewed. They were brewed there between 1998 and 2004. Now in 2004 the company relocated to their current base at the 4th Brewery in Kellybank, Alloa, just a few miles away from my hometown, and this was when they adopted the name Williams Brothers Brewing Company. Now at this particular facility they've developed 25 new recipes since moving into the site, and the company apparently are now regarded as one of Scotland's most prolific brewing companies. I've never heard of them being referred to as that incidentally, but I know they're a very good brewery and they have a lot of different beers, so that probably fits. But oddly enough they're actually the last brewery in the old brewing capital of Scotland. There was a massive brewery there. When you go into Clackmannanshire where I'm from, there's a lot of whisky bonds, and these things, they say that the whisky that is in these particular warehouses and stuff is actually worth more than the gold in Fort Knox over in the US. I'm not sure how true that is or if that's a bit of a myth, but it probably is possible, to be honest. But you see all these warehouses, and this is where they put the whisky to mature and age and stuff like that. But there used to be a lot of beer production in Alloa as well, and as I promised I'll research that for one of my later videos once my uni work subsides a little bit, I guess. But anyway, to get on to the tasting of this particular beer, I'm looking forward to this one. As I say, I've become very fond of this particular beer. I'll just let you have a better look at the label there. I'll just bring the camera up to make sure you're seeing that. As you can see, it has the sort of Joker that you see on the card decks and things like that on this one. It's quite cool, and you can see there's in the corner here you've got Bruce and Scott Williams, just their things. I'm not sure if all of the bottles have that these days actually, but as you can see they're proud to say it's bottled and brewed in Scotland, and this one they say on it is microbrewed for maximum flavour. Their beers are very flavourful. As I say, I've grown very fond of this particular brewery. It has the typical Williams Brothers logo on it there. On the back it has a little bit of a description to it. It says IPA is a style of beer originally developed for export to the East India Company in the 18th century, surviving surviving the long sea voyages thanks to its high gravity and generous hop content. Joker has a fresh citrus aroma and bittersweet full flavour guaranteed to bring a smile to your face. And it actually has on the back here, you can see the address of the brewery there, Alloa, Scotland. So this is a very, very local brewery to me, as I say, literally only 1 or 2 miles along the road. If you're wondering exactly, for those of you watching outside of the UK, Alloa is very close to the village of the town of Stirling, that's very famous for Robert the Bruce and William Wallace and things like that, and it's right bang in the middle of Edinburgh and Glasgow. Edinburgh on the east coast, Glasgow on the west coast. It's right bang in the middle of there. Somewhere you should definitely look at visiting if you're ever visiting Scotland. Many people just tend to stick to Edinburgh, but anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, we'll just get on with the tasting of this beer as usual. This is a 5% IPA, and this one they say apparently uses a triple infusion of high alpha European hops, and they say that this one is supposed to be a really good mix of bittersweet flavours, so we'll see how this turns out. I couldn't actually find out what the different hops and malts used in this particular one were. The Williams Brothers Brewery website kept having errors when I was trying to get a hold of this data, so Williams Brothers, if you're watching, please fix that, and so I can figure out the hops that are in your beers. Be quite good. It's always good to know that. I can smell this one as it's coming out of the bottle, actually. Really, really nice hoppy aroma to this one, but as you can see, a nice sort of one finger fluffy white head to it, a sort of nice kind of ambery golden colour, quite clear I have to say. There's a good bit of visible carbonation on that. There's some of it sticking to the sides of the pint glass, and there's quite a bit kind of coming up to the surface from the bottom here. But in terms of the aroma, a lot of citrusy hops in this one. This reminds me kind of quite a lot of the it has that sort of brewdoggy. Brewdog are one that are very, very well known for their sort of hoppy, citrusy aromas, and Sierra Nevada in the States as well, it has that particular type of aroma. There's a bit of grapefruit in the background as well, floral elements with some kind of piney and woody notes in there. Really, really nice smelling beer, very typical of what you want from a craft brewed IPA. It has that particular characteristic about it. But let's get this guy tasted and see what he's like. There's a lot of citrusy hops there up front. It's got quite a bitterness to it, but it doesn't. Up front, it doesn't quite have the same kick that you get from some IPAs, which is quite interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of citrusy hops and bitterness coming up there up front. After you get past that sort of initial kind of hoppy kick to it, this is when you start to get the kind of hints of grapefruit in this one. There is elements of malt. I'm not sure whether to describe it as caramelly malt, but you can pick up that sort of malt in the background there. And you're also getting the floral and grassy notes in the background as well. And there is maybe just a little bit of spice character to it as well. I think the sort of hoppy bitterness to it actually maybe has a little bit of earthy character to it. It's a very interesting flavour, this one. As I say, it's not the sort of citrusy elements in this one aren't quite as punchy as you would expect from some of the Brewdog beers or the likes of Sierra Nevada. This is an interesting IPA. It's got quite a different feel to it. In terms of the mouth of this one, it's quite light. It's got quite a nice wet mouthfeel. It's very kind of clean and crisp on the mouth. But it's very easy drinking, I have to say. This is a nice sort of session beer, I would say. Really, I'm really impressed with this one. As I say, it's a little bit different because it doesn't quite have such a kick to the citrusy elements to it, I would say. So it's always very interesting in that sense. But I would recommend you give this one a try. This is a good quality IPA. And Williams Brothers Brewery, very, very good Scottish brewery. One of my local breweries. I highly recommend that you check these guys out. Very, very, as they say, very prolific brewing company, all these different beers. I'll put the website link in the description for you, and you can have a little look at all the different bottles they do. When I looked earlier, there was a good 22, 23 bottles, something like that. So a lot of different beers that they're producing there. This is a very, very good brewery. They're one of the flagship breweries of Scotland these days. You know, you've obviously got Harveston, or the other local Scottish brewery in Clackmannanshire, so they're definitely worth checking out as well. But as I say, definitely check out this beer if you get the chance. Very, very good brewery. All of their brews are very good. You won't be disappointed with any of them, I have to say. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I hope this one has been informative for you and you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. There will be beer reviews added as often as I can. I'm doing my master's degree just now, so it's a little bit hectic in terms of that, but I will try to add beer reviews as often as I can over the next little while. I have a whole host of different countries of beers and things like that you can have a little look at. But thanks again for watching. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow. Like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube jazz. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.